Imagine raising millions for your startup and 3 months later, it's in administration. Lawsuits flying, investors unhappy. That's exactly what happened to StrongRoom AI. And that's exactly when Zhou, our guest today, swooped in and bought it.
Here in Australia, it was almost like the Theranos. The purchase got really complicated. I can see there's definitely a lot of financial discrepancies. I didn't have planned buying it, so I had to raise money to buy the debt, then didn't have enough money to complete the purchase. Then after purchase, didn't have enough money to run the company. So everybody hated everyone. Everyone's suing everyone. And everyone is basically tell all the other parties to F off. You know, they think that I'll just turn around and flip it in 18 months. From a personal level, as a healthcare professional, the coolest things you can do in healthcare is one is cure cancer, second is tackling substance abuse and addiction. If StrongRoom dies, I'm going down with the ship. Hi, I'm Zhou, rebuilding StrongRoom AI, and this is how I'm rebuilding.
Quick thing before we get started, we have a lofty goal this year of hitting 1,000 subscribers in order to help more people build really great companies. So if you enjoy the content, learn something new, the best way to support us is by subscribing. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so before we dive in,
Sure.
in very simple words, how would you describe StrongRoom AI?
StrongRoom AI is, you know, in the press, it's been described as many things like AI company, adherence, medication management, but that's actually not what they do at all. So they do a lot of stuff in substance abuse and addiction and controlled drug compliance. It's the SaaS platform for organizations that deals with controlled drug management and opioid replacement therapy. So it could be pharmacies, clinics. That was a very bad one-line pitch, but that's as close as it gets. I still haven't perfected it yet.
It's only been a few months, you
Yes.
know, it's going to take some time. Okay, so for people who missed the news
Yes.
or are not based in Australia,
Yes.
can you break down what actually happened with StrongRoom before you stepped in?
Yeah, so StrongRoom essentially went into administration, very public series of events after a large funding round, and then discrepancies with the financial records, books, misstated revenue, and investor reported as fraudulent. Few multiple court cases still going on for the previous company, and the company got put into administration, and then I bought the assets of the company. So essentially that's the backstory. Very public event. I think here in Australia it was almost like the Theranos of Australia. Australia was missing that big scandal. So everyone wanted to talk about it, all the journalists want to talk about it, and it got blew out of proportion, I think.
Yeah. What do you mean it got blew out of proportion?
I think, for what the news was, I think the journalist was covering it like daily. Then it was like weekly news for like 3 months. I think that was a little bit over the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it was certainly very exciting, I think. Yeah, definitely a good story.
Yeah. Exciting, but a little bit tragic, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I think the StrongRoom news broke around the same time that I was in the process of like leaving to go to Australia.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I actually remember everyone was like, oh, I was like doing some research on like startup land.
Yes.
And the only news that came up was like StrongRoom AI,
Wow.
fraudulent activity.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, crazy.
Surely it wasn't reported in America, right? It was mainly Australian news.
No. Yeah, Americans don't really care about anything
no,
else.
that's right.
There were a lot of headlines, as you mentioned.
Yes.
But as someone that went through it, how much of the public story matched what you found inside?
After we took over the company, access, zero financial records, I can see there's definitely a lot of financial discrepancies, especially in relation to revenue that was recognized. I think there was a lot of contracts that hasn't come through, or probably transaction volume that's misrepresented as revenue. So I think I can see there's definitely a lot of mismatch there, with the case. I don't know the exact story of what's being sort of alleged, but from the financial side, there's definitely discrepancies, yes.
You already have a business that is operational, running. Then you suddenly decided you should totally turn your life around and then buy StrongRoom AI and go be in the public limelight. So why did you buy StrongRoom?
Yeah, that's a question I still ask myself these days. I think going back to when I went into administration, I think I was like everybody, just reading the news and sitting on sidelines, just enjoying the big scandal and reading
Enjoying
all
the
the
tea.
fiasco and
Yeah.
reading about it. And then then the administrator came, asked for everyone to put in offers. I didn't put in an offer, and then I pretty much all the offers were closed, and I still did not plan on buying it. It was absolutely crazy. I had zero plans of buying it until probably 2 days before they were trying to make a decision. It was just talking to a couple of previous investors I knew, and they knew Patterson Street Finance, which was they owned the secured debt over the company, and they caught the receivers over the company assets. So they was suggested, if I really wanted to buy StrongRoom, because I did mention to them a couple of times, hey, this is right up my alley. I've been in, health tech, startup, pharmaceutical software is right up my alley. I'd love to, see what it is and give it a crack. So, and I use my software myself, so I know they're real, and I know they have a good product. Yeah, from that standpoint, we thought if I really want it, we could buy the debt. There's a secure debt, plenty of interest, heaps of bidders. So the real risk that we'll be running is a time risk. If we buy the debt, being a secure creditor, you could see everyone's bids, and we could use that to see if we wanted to make a higher bid and ultimately have the highest bid. And we could use a secure debt position to negotiate, with the other parties involved to put us in a strong negotiation position. That was a plan, sort of not a very well organized plan, to be honest. And we thought, yeah, let's just buy the debt and see what's coming worse. Someone just buys the debt back, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
And then, so you mentioned that you are a user, so you know the platform works and it works well. So what was it about StrongRoom's core that made you think like this is worth saving?
I think from a personal level, as a healthcare professional, I think two of the coolest things you can do in healthcare is, one is cure cancer, second is tackling substance abuse and addiction.
Yeah.
And the use of illicit drugs, opioids, causes many, many deaths worldwide. It's a global economic problem as well as a public health problem. So for me, doing something in addiction is hugely rewarding, and that's exactly what StrongRoom's software does. They provide a opioid replacement program software, and as well as control drug register for compliance and analytics. So I feel like it'll be something that, if I have I've always said to myself, if there's a chance to, tackle cancer or addiction, I'd love to be involved. And the StrongRoom opportunity came up from a personal level, was too hard to turn down.
Wow, it's too hard to turn down. Were there any moments that you almost backed out?
So we did this over like 3 short weekends. So it was Easter, there was like Anzac Day, and then it was Labor Day. So it was like 3 short 4-day weeks in a row.
Very memorable 3 weeks, it seems.
Yeah, very memorable. And we're basically working all over the Easter, over those public holidays. Legal bills went over the roof, but could not get off the phone, meetings after meetings, with administrators, creditors, investors, everyone, legal team, trying to find a way forward. And the purchase got really complicated because there was multiple court hearings, and there was a license period, and I couldn't purchase. Everything got delayed, and I would have to wait for creditors hearings. It's all over the news, like credit hearing number 1, nothing happened, then creditors hearing number 2, and the whole thing just dragged out for like months. And I mean, halfway through it, certainly thinking to myself, is this worth it? Like, I'm just chucking money at lawyers and buying something out of administration, which I've never done before, with the worst possible press you could ever ask for. Like, what am I doing here? So yes, I certainly thought long and hard about whether we should just pull out. And then I got to a point where, like, a couple of things, like, I'm usually, like, once I decide to do something, I normally see it through. Like, I hate quitting halfway, and like, on top of that, the news was covering me all the way through as well. So it's like, it got to a point where, like,
too much peer pressure.
Yeah, I can't just pull out now. Like, I've committed. I already feel like I got scar tissues by that point. Like, it was just too much. I've spent like 3 public holidays working on this, and then so much time, so much money as well. Like, I'm just committed to see it through at the end.
So other than kind of the process being dragged out, administrator, creditors, and all the different stakeholders involved? Were there kind of any other things that were shocking or surprising?
Everybody hated everyone. Everyone's suing everyone. And everyone is basically tell all the other parties to F off. So it's like, yeah, and I just jumped right in the middle of like multiple court cases. And like, I feel like I'm just like, hey, just settle down, relax. We can sort this out. Yeah, so it wasn't easy to navigate as well. And it's all like the biggest players, you know, the very large VCs, you know, investors, global investors. So yeah, well, it wasn't easy to navigate.
Yeah, I kind of imagine. So you've signed the papers. The internet is a little bit skeptical still.
Yes.
Half the team is gone.
Yes.
What's your very first move?
I think the first few days after settlement is basically to deal with everybody that is pissed off. So literally everyone's pissed off. Like I've never been to a company where everyone's pissed off. So all the staff want to pay rises. All the staff remaining is like, nah, I had enough of this. Like I'm the last person that understands this product. Like if you don't give me this pay rise, I'm just gonna go. But actually, like the team's absolutely fantastic. But like everyone's just had enough. Like, and the previous administration didn't promise them pay rises and you look after them, which they never did. Then you know, dealing with internal issues. Then there was like customer complaints, like whole lost log of customer complaints. And then there's like political agendas within the industry, you know, people that have lost money, invested in StrongRoom, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, withdrawing contracts, you know, telling people to never use StrongRoom and losing deals here and there, complaints people paid and haven't delivered, all of that.
Yeah.
As worst as you can imagine, yeah, just dealing with, I call it how to inherit 1,000 problems overnight. That's it.
Fun.
Exactly.
What did it feel walking in the room? But I can imagine it's just hostile.
Yeah, well, to be honest, like, I think there's one part of the story I haven't mentioned is that StrongRoom has at the time had a wholly owned subsidiary called Members Benefits Australia, which is also widely covered there. StrongRoom previously paid like $8 or $9 million or whatever it is to acquire it. And once I took over the company, you know, that company wasn't in administration, so we didn't have the financial records. And when I took over, that company was like highly insolvent. It was like ATO debts, you know, all these liabilities. It was basically like a shell. And there was, you know, $500,000 in liabilities, and I had to deal with it. It was like, hey, here it is, gift with purchase. That's how they packaged it. It's gift with purchase. Yeah, so like the first 6 weeks was actually dealing with the subsidiary, you know, trying to get that solvent operating. And that was like, it was like a rewards business, which really made no sense that like in the scheme of things, which, yeah, StrongRoom did a lot of stuff that didn't make sense. Yeah, so that, and everyone resigned from that company. Everyone hated me for some reason because I had bought the company and they all hated me. So, yeah, so I bought it. Everyone literally came and resigned on the same day. So 3 people resigned in front of me to say, congratulations on your purchase. Here's our resignation papers. We'll do everything we can to assist you to transition into 2 weeks. That was basically what happened.
But you know what? It's like, it's one of those once in a lifetime experience. Like, who could say that they've went through all of this shit, you know?
Yeah.
Except for
absolutely.
you and maybe like 100 other people.
Yeah, I think looking back, it's definitely the craziest thing I've done. Like, I ended up taking a lot more risks. I pretty much put everything on the line. Like, I actually didn't have money to initially to buy the debt because I don't come from a sort of a VC background. I'm not a private equity. I didn't buy it to flip it, if you like, and I didn't have plan buying it. So I had to raise money to buy the debt, then didn't have enough money to run the company, to complete the purchase. Then after purchase, didn't have enough money to run the company. So it was like, this is not part of the plan. But I think it was just grit to got us through it all. And, you know, before the settlement, I had to put my house on the line to say, I will settle. And I gave a guarantee to say, you know, and then thankfully, you know, some financing came through at the end to get it done.
So after all this fiasco, the first 6 weeks, maybe let's say the first 3 months of just trying to fight fires, and you're kind of getting to the process where you're trying to grow it again, make it healthy. What was the hardest part? Would it be hiring the right people, or would it be like rebuilding customer trust?
The hardest part was the StrongRoom had too many products. StrongRoom had 7 products. and each product had we had 8 engineers left. So each product was like 1 point of failure, 1 person support. Majority of those products had very little traction. There's a lot of it was about stabilizing the core, like what makes a business. So, focus on your fundamental assets, to remove distractions, focus on the right things. They essentially died because they tried to scale horizontally and vertically at the same time. They tried to build every product in every direction, try to go to UK, US at the same time. It was just madness. Besides the financial mismanagement, it was very lousy engineering management. So it's basically getting the engineering management down pat. A lot of my time right now is spent on product, getting the engineers building the right thing. It hasn't been a right strategy at all. And the core business is very sound. So the core business, very large market share in Australia. It's almost has there's only one competitor that owns, StrongRoom still owns a third of the market, pretty much has a monopoly in several analytics areas, sitting on so much pharmaceutical data. So yeah, lots of areas where they're super relevant in, but things like rewards, aged care, adherence, where they have very little market share in, they've spent too many resources building things that doesn't matter. Yeah, so a lot of it is just focusing on the right things.
Yeah, very important. I think especially at the beginning, you're strapped for cash, resources, and everything as well. When you took over StrongRoom, you didn't do a gigantic rebrand of the name and stuff. What was the thinking behind that? Yeah,
that was probably one of the first major decisions I had to make, whether to rebrand or not. I think a lot of people say just rebrand, launch something new, and then you can, say you got all this traction in 1 month and stuff like that. But I think fundamentally StrongRoom's brand is tarnished from an investor perspective, but from the customer perspective, it's very, very relevant brand. So within the pharmaceutical industry, everybody knows StrongRoom in Australia. It's very relevant. People talk about best products in the market. People talk about StrongRoom. So, and I'm from the end user, I know I've been in the industry for God knows how long now. So I know the industry inside out. So from that perspective, we talk to a lot of people, and there's a significant love for it. So I made the decision to stick with the brand.
We mentioned this a bit earlier, but you're typically more of a private person.
Yes.
And this whole thing have kind of catapulted you into being pretty public.
Yeah.
So how do you tune out the noise, and how are you adapting to this new change?
Yeah, I'm not good at talking about myself at all. So yeah, I think when this thing happened, obviously there's lots of press coverage over it. I've been building, tech startup for 8 years. I know what matters. It's the customers that matter. It's just getting the business to work. So it's just about StrongRoom. It's just about getting back to the core, business 101. That's what they need. They don't need another idea. They don't need all these investors, all these press. They just need to get back to running a business properly, and that's what I think what I do pretty well.
I love that. And what do you think is the most misunderstood thing about what you did?
A lot of people think I'd buy it to flip it. And that has not even once crossed my mind until so many people start mentioning it, especially, some private equity people, some investors, they think that I'll just turn around and flip it in 18 months. But yeah, I think I've always been a founder. Investing it's not my thing. Flipping it for profit, I mean, it doesn't really drive me. I think for me, I bought StrongRoom because I want to tackle substance abuse and addiction. I think, the mission of StrongRoom now is to make the world a safer place. So I think what we're doing, what we're building towards, will be saving lots of lives every day. So that's what drives me.
I love that. And what do you think has been a big win throughout this rebuilding process that have made you been I'm very glad that I did it?
I think there's a few things that, you're sort of happy about. I really love the team. The team is wonderful. I think I met some great people they've been through so much, throughout this administration period. I think they're absolute superstars. Absolutely love them to death. Even though a few of them been drilling me for pay rises. But like I get it. But yeah, they're great engineers, great team. They built some cool stuff. They just, had the company unfortunately mismanaged. And another thing is that like during all of this that has happened, there's very little churn, customer churn, very little. The product's so sticky, and very happy to see, even with all the political agendas, with all the stuff that happened, like the base revenue is still there, base customer base. So I knew that sort of from day one because I use the product. Like if you don't have to switch from StrongRoom, you will not switch unless they close. It's just one of the most painful things to switch. So the cost of switching is really high. So, that the retention, so the first 3 months is all about focusing on retention. So that's been really good. And also like, in the recent round capital raise, like a lot of people, within hospital, within the industry, medicinal cannabis, within aged care, within pharmaceutical, they all see the value. So yeah, it's not just me, but like there's a lot of people that love the product.
Yeah, I really love that. I think customer validation is way more important than anything else around it.
Yeah, I hate talking to investors. I hate raising money. If I don't have to, I'll never do it. It's just customers making the best product for the customers. That's what
I don't think anyone really enjoys talking to investors too much.
Yeah, not me. Definitely not me.
And I never asked, so what is your background, Zhou?
I've got a pharmaceutical as well as computer science background. So I did a pharmaceutical degree from University of Sydney, and then been running tech startups since 2018. So first company founders came to you, and then started my current Kiso group 2021. Grew really well. Had the resources to do this. It wasn't part of the plan, but here I am.
Here you are. Yeah. Okay, so you're still very early on this journey with StrongRoom. But looking back now, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned rebuilding something that already crashed?
I think just focusing on the right things. I think if you look at the reason the company dies, it's usually like StrongRoom, if they just didn't hire 50 people, right? If they just stuck to what they were doing well, they would have grown fine. Sometimes it's just trying to do too many things. Do too many things, go and far from the core mission. And then you end up running out of money, you end up doing creative accounting, you get desperate, you do all of them. We've all been guilty of it, myself included. So I think, just get back to the core fundamentals and try to do one thing really, really well. Yeah.
And what is the next big move that you guys are up to that we should all keep our eyes on?
The funny thing is, the next big move is to make no moves at all. I think sometimes it's more important to know which market you're not going to enter rather than which market you're going to enter. I think StrongRoom is at a place where it needs to know which market not to enter. So you'll see the big moves is us pulling out of a bunch of markets that's not relevant and focusing on substance abuse and addiction.
Yeah. I mean, that's the core, right? Cool. So, okay, I have some really fun, lighthearted rapid fires to wrap up our conversation.
Sure.
Buy a broken company or start from scratch?
Start from scratch.
Go viral for bad press or never get noticed?
Never get noticed. Heaps of great businesses that never get noticed. Well, unless so going bad viral is not good. Coldplay will tell you that.
Would you ever buy a distressed company again?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's so painful that I don't want to go through that process ever again, to be honest. I think it's always good to start something by yourself. I think StrongRoom is a very unique case for me. Like, I think if I was a private equity, yes, you buy distressed company, turn around and flip it. That's the business model. But for me, like, when I do something, I'm just all in. Like, if StrongRoom dies, I'm going down with the ship right now. Like, I'm not backing out. So I think for me, it was only because I think what they do is very good for the world that I like to be part of it, and I want to, like to revive the company. That was the only reason, but it's just too painful. It's probably it is up there with the most painful thing I've done in my life. Buying StrongRoom.
What's number one most painful?
Number one most painful. Probably when I ran my first startup. There was some painful times there.
Okay. So either way, it's just startup life that's painful, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Zhou, so much for joining us.
No, it's been fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really good.
That's a wrap. If you like this episode, please hit the subscribe button. It helps us bring on more awesome guests, level up production, and drop new series you'll want to watch. See you in 2 weeks.